All right, the 16 Days of Activism Against Gender-Based Violence is an annual global campaign highlighting the need to end violence against girls and women.
Indeed, Claire, this year's 16 Days of Activism shines the spotlight on violence under, of course, gender-based violence under the theme United to End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls.
Well, global studies reveal that yearly millions of girls and women are affected by digital abuse and technology-facilitated violence.
In addition to that, millions of girls and women are allegedly affected by online abuse, which pushes women out of digital space. And that means limiting their skills, access to markets, and indeed higher value jobs.
We also have data from a research that shows that about 23% of girls and women have faced online harassment or at least abuse once in their lifetime. And at least 1 in 10 has also experienced some form of cyber violence or cyberbullying, if you may.
Mm-hmm. And it goes without saying that gender inequality persists everywhere and stagnates social progress. Sexual violence and exploitation leads often to discrimination at workplaces as well.
Precisely. And women and girls, we know, represent half of the world's population and therefore also half of its potential. However, gender sexual abuse persists and leaving in its trail a scar in the wake of violent exploitation. And it's on this challenging note, I welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria, and I'm Claire Adelabu Abdul Razak. Victor.
I am Victor, as we already said so. And we thank you very much for joining us this Thursday morning. We are live from Abuja, the nation's capital. In a moment, we will have Chukwudi Okoli Ubaja for company as we do the newspaper review. But now we have Dennis Adegunloye family seat. Thank you for staying with us. This is Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. Before we introduce our guests for this conversation on 16 Days of Activism, let's take this background report put together by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
The latest World Health Organization-led global report shows the violence against women remains alarmingly high, affecting nearly a third of women worldwide. Violence against women and girls is emphasized as a global human rights emergency that must stop. Despite decades of commitment, experts say progress against gender-based violence remains slow, with only a 0.2% annual decline in prevalence. Noting that sexual violence beyond intimate relationships is widespread, but highly underreported. Globally, 8% have experienced sexual violence by someone other than a partner. The true number is likely much higher due to stigma and non-disclosure. However, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Actions is the world's most comprehensive visionary plan ever created to achieve the equal rights of all women and girls. Agreed by 189 governments in 1995 at the 4th World Conference on Women, the platform centers on 12 areas of action, referred to as critical areas of concern. These cover jobs and the economy, political participation, peace, the environment, ending violence against women and more, hence the establishment of the 16 Days Activism Against Gender-Based Violence. Marked from 25th November to 10th December of every year, the essence is to nip in the bud gender-based violence globally. The theme for the 16 Days of Activism to End Gender-Based Violence this year is Unite to End Digital Violence Against All Women and Girls. This focuses on one of the fastest growing forms of abuse, digital violence against women and girls, reminding that digital safety is central to gender equality. Online and digital spaces should empower women and girls. Yet, every day, for millions of women and girls, the digital world has become a minefield of harassment, abuse, and control. From online harassment and cyber stalking, the deep fakes, doxing, and coordinated technological attacks, the technology-facilitated gender-based violence has emerged as a disturbing new form of abuse. Now, how effective can these years seem be in standing against reality? What policies or measures can be put in place for the female gender to be fully protected? Our guest will be answering this question and more shortly.
Thank you, Yoyemi Ajayi, for the background report. We have our guests seated here in the studio, and let's start with the introductions. I have Dr. Olajumoke Adeniyi, who is head of operations, Hasham Foundation. She's also the creative director, Salt and Light brand. Dr. Adeniyi, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me.
Dr. Asmao is also here. Dr. Asmao Benzi is CEO, Executive Director, Center for Non-Violence and Gender Advocacy in Nigeria. It's always a pleasure to have you.
The pleasure is mine. Good morning, viewer.
All right, we have also been joined here in the studio by Chief Dr. Rekia Momo Abaji. She's retired director of the Federal Civil Service and activist on women and development issues. A pleasure to welcome you to Good Morning Nigeria.
My pleasure to be here too. Thank you.
All right, and lastly, but by no means the least, let me welcome Ife Onyebule, Chief Ife Onyebule, an award-winning broadcaster, and who's been GM of 4 different stations. She currently serves as the GM of the Imo Broadcasting, DG of the Imo Broadcasting Corporation. She's Executive Director, Woman of Substance. A pleasure to welcome you on Good Morning Nigeria. A pleasure to welcome you on Good Morning Nigeria. A pleasure to welcome.
Good morning, viewer.
Go ahead.
All right, let's begin this conversation as we start from right here in the studio. And I'd like to begin by asking Dr. Olajumoke Adeniyi what might be driving the rise in digital violence against women in Nigeria today.
Thank you very much. From the statistics of sexual and gender-based violence, we know in Nigeria that 1 in every 3 women, sitting from the age of 15 to age 49 at least, has experienced sexual and gender-based violence, both physically and digitally. Because we have situations online where we see influencers. A lot of the time when you see people come online to bring out, and how many times have you counted a male influencer come out to rant that he is being harassed online? Recently, we had one of the fashion designers, like one of the top fashion designers, that was being cyber stalked for being seemingly pregnant, and she couldn't post in peace. People that we call womb watchers. We have this trend in Nigeria, and we need to do better as a community, as a nation. And why we have this trend in Nigeria is because, number 1, we do not have enough information on the people. The people are ignorant that this is the effect of what I'm doing. They do not have adequate information of what your comments on to somebody's physical look, to somebody's performance online can do to that person when that person is not online. So many of these people have been victims of depression. Some of them will end up not being able to come out to socialize because of the fear of what are they going to say about me, and this is a big issue, and some people begin to contemplate suicide.
Sorry, Dr. Adeniyi, sorry, can I quickly just interrupt you? Wow, we will need to adjust, your microphone, so we'll get back to you. Let me come to Dr. Asmao. Dr. Asmao, I want to start from the basics, clarifications. First of all, because each time we talk about gender, non-violence against gender, our focus is generally, our talk, our conversations generally center around the female gender. And I know that my colleague here, I'm surprised that today he's on our side, has always raised the issue, of... So let's clarify what we mean by gender. Who are we talking about? And then, the second leg to my question will be, all the while we've been talking about 16 days activism, against non-violence and all that. What has happened? I mean, is this just another political show, the usual rhetorics? So just quickly.
So thank you very much. When we talk about gender, to a layman, let me just put it this way. Gender is talking about human beings. Everyone that is born of a woman has a particular gender, whether you are male or women or female. Basically, gender means is a social construct, like I said, and sometimes we misconstrued what sex means and gender. Sex is biological. It's what differentiates men and women. For instance, I'm a woman and I give birth. A man cannot give birth. So these are sex rules.
Don't be sure about it. Let's stick to what we know.
Okay. I'm coming there. It's just a simple, just so that we don't misconstrue the two. Because when I conduct a lot of gender trainings, gender awareness training, and that's one of the key things you always find people talking about, gender, sex, and so we need to always put this demarcation of what the two terms, the concepts mean. And talking about gender is a social construct of what differentiates a male and a female. And that construct is societal based, and it is also context specific, and it's also culturally oriented. So what constitutes gender roles in Nigeria might not be the same gender roles in America. For instance, even within Nigeria, what constitutes gender roles in the north is not what gender roles are in the south. So when you see a man in the south, he can tie a wrapper, and that's gender roles for southern, especially the Igbo tribe. And for Hausa man, when you see a man tie wrapper, it's a taboo. How can a man tie wrapper? Especially, do you understand? In celebrations, Igbo people do that. So we need to understand that some of these the gender issues are not generic. They are context specific and they are culturally aligned. And it is the society through socialization that assign what a man can do and what a woman can do. And sometimes that starts from the family.
So in
Once
essence,
they are born,
so that we can go. In essence, when we talk about non-violence against gender, who are we looking at?
we are looking at everybody.
Beautiful.
It can affect both male and female. But once we talk about that, who are those that usually suffer from that?
We'll come to that. I just want us to understand that, look, we are not restricting
not at all
to just the female.
Yeah, it's everybody. Everybody.
Gender. The second leg to my question, before we bring in a chief here, is, I mean, we've been having this activism, 16 days. I mean, ladies will come out, will go on road shows. If he is there in Lagos, I know if I'm going to come to you, we will be all over talking about it. Well, I mean, what have we moved? What is the shape?
To be fair to activists, to be fair to journalists, a lot of mental and psychological change has happened in the Nigerian community. Many people are now aware. 5-10 years ago, you hardly hear of the commemoration of the 16th day of activism, but it has been existing in other countries. But because of the massive awareness creation, because of the mobilization of activists, actors, to be able to speak to issues that concerns gender-based violence and violence against women, many people are not aware. Do you know in schools now, they've made some schools mandatory for them to commemorate that day, so that boys will understand what constitutes violence against girls, and girls will understand what constitutes violence against boys. And when we move even to the workspace, it's the same thing is happening in the offices now. You will see that most corporate organizations and now even government organizations have started commemorating this day. You will hear now it's 16th day of activism. They will prepare all this branded material to create awareness against violence against women at the national level, at the policy making level. Now they're talking about gender-based violence. How many years ago we weren't hearing about this?
That's
so
why
a lot of progress
you should be in the
made.
classroom or even here, because if I allow you to go on,
I'm going to ask, you see, from your decades of experience, I'm tempted to ask from where she's coming, why then do we have to say gender-based violence? Why don't we just say no to violence?
Yeah, we are having to say gender. And, you know, before these explanations we're having, clarifications, when you say gender, automatically the minds of people go to the female gender. And that is because they are the ones who suffer gender violence the most. They are the ones who suffer it on a general basis from the home, from at workplace, and as they grow up. So it is known that the women suffer it more because of their natural vulnerable positions and situations. So that is why, you know, once you say gender-based violence, it goes to them. They are the ones who get harassed, they are the ones who get raped, they are the ones who get stalked, and they are the ones who are, you know, by the way society pleases us, who are emotionally attacked, you know. When a woman raises her voice, the natural thing that happens is that attack starts, and then you have to like take charge of the situation, or you know, find a way to go around it.
From your long years of experience, how has, you know, this evolved from offline to online?
Okay, you know that in the last decade we have gotten more engaged with our cell phones. See, everyone here is carrying a cell phone. So it's like we're taking this violence from the streets into our phones and into our homes. And so people are easily affected by it. There's a general kind of engagement and involvement, and that is bringing it even closer to our homes and into our minds, because we engage with this situation. The phones have made it easily reachable. The phones have made us also because easily engaging with the situation, and so it's generally, you know, reaching us much more than it had reached us in the past, and it's right at our doorsteps now and on our minds as we engage with our phones.
Dr. Omwabadi, thank you very much. Let's put you on hold and go to Lagos. Chief Ifeonyebule, my dear sister, it's good to see you and having this conversation with you. If you're there, okay. I'm just wondering, I like to give the conversation some content and context before we even look at the layers of abuse and who suffers what. They've all said, you know, I mean, the guests in the studio have all said the female gender is most vulnerable. Do you think that the statistics, you know, reflect that? Or what is happening behind, you know, the other gender? Are they just hiding behind the bars? Happening behind, you know, the other gender? Are they just hiding behind the bars?
I'd like to take it from the angle of, you know, what the statistics say. When you look at it, 1 in 3 women are either facing or have faced one form of violence or the other. I heard Dr. Adeni speak, I've listened to Dr. Asmao, and of course Chief that just finished speaking. And you asked some questions around the issue of gender. When we talk about gender, let's look at it this way, and it's the truth. People may not believe it. Even before the girl child is born, that's, you know, the discrimination starts. And I'll take you through it, of course, especially in the part of the country where I come from, the East, as it is. A woman, you know, you have children, maybe like 4 or 5 girls. Until you have a boy, some families don't even believe that you are in the house or in the home and that you're relaxed as a wife. She gets pregnant again and has another girl child. You understand what happens? He comes again and he says, oh, another girl. He walks away. Now we get to the part where the girl child is growing. You're saying to the boys, go out and play. The girls, stay home. You're going to stay with your mother. You must learn to cook so that you make a good wife and all that and all that. No one thinks about that girl having her own idea of what it is that she wants to do to grow with her brothers. So the discrimination is there. You get to the what's it called now? The official arena, as it is. There is this subtle thing when you talk about women and the things that they do. I have faced it for someone who's managed about 4 stations, as it is. Everywhere I go, that bias is there. who's this woman? Where is she coming from? Why is she better than any other man who can take up the job? I'll even share with you, in the role where I am now as Director General, when I was first appointed, I assumed the position and, got into office. Someone walked into my office to see me. And as he walked in, he saw that it was a woman, a young woman at that. I wasn't yet 50 when my governor appointed me. And he said to me, really, I expected to see a man here in the office. So I said to him, you're going to see me here for a long time to come. So get used to it. Let's get down to business. What can I do for you? So what I try to do is to let people understand we're all human beings, whether male, whether female. People need to get equal opportunities. That's the way I see it. And for the 16 days of activism, of course, the theme is end digital violence against women and girls. So it already covers the gender that we're talking about at this time. And I think that we should focus on that because a lot is happening when you talk about women and the way they are even reported, the way they are portrayed right there in the digital space. We'll go into all of that if the time permits, and I'll give you some examples.
Before we come back to Dr. Olajumoke Adeniyi here, Ife, you've talked about, you've mentioned some specifics that relate with the female gender, but some would also argue that it's because, the male gender are not saying, they're not amplifying what they're also going through. Saying they're not amplifying what they're also going through.
They're not coming out to talk about it, but it's not to say that they're not coming out. I've had a couple of men who said to me that I'm being bullied by my wife. In the years when I was station manager of Rock City FM in Abuja, a certain man walked up to me and said to me, I need to leave my home, the place where I have my wife and my child, just so I don't send somebody to their early grave. I had to rally support for this man so that he moves out of there, at that moment in time. He said his wife was bullying him. On top of that, she was, going about with other men, and he just couldn't stand it. She was rubbing it in his face. She even attacks him, as the case may be. That was one man who came out to speak about it. You know what it's like? We live in a patriarchal society. Not a lot of men will want to come out to say to you, my wife is beating me up at home. She doesn't give me food. She doesn't take care of me. She doesn't even perform her conjugal duties as it is. Men don't come out to talk. And it's because we live in a society that says that it is wrong or it's a crime or an abomination for men to cry. I think we need to become humans as it is. Let's be human beings first before whatever it is that we want to be. And the society needs to soft pedal, needs to, loosen up on this idea of saying that a man is supposed to be like stone. We're all made of what we have in our veins. If you cut anybody open, it's blood that you're going to see. Why would you say that a man should not express himself and say exactly how he feels? So much is happening. Gender roles are changing now, and that's why we see a lot of the things, the crazy things, pardon my use of that word, happening in homes today. But when you talk about gender-based violence, it is the woman that faces it. Let's call a spade a spade. It is what it is, even though not many people will believe that it's the woman that is hardest hit.
Thank you. Thank you, Ife. I like the fact that you've considered that not many people would believe. We'll leave it at that. Let me get back to Dr. Olajumoke and ask, now, from your work, what would you say is the singlest, simple mistake that women make without even realizing the risk? And now I'm speaking because if he has asked us to, gender is women, and let's talk about women.
Mistake, how does mistake relate to
mistake,
violence?
how?
You have started.
It's like making her responsible.
Okay, yes, because I'm trying to understand the question. What do you mean by mistake?
Yes.
There are things that people do. It could be a mistake. You put yourself, perhaps make yourself vulnerable without even realizing it. And I'm saying, in your experience, because you walk around this cycle, what have you found to be one theme that runs through, that you could say, okay, this is a mistake that some women make, or most women make, that they do not realize. They just do these things naturally, and it turns out to be their undoing with regards to gender-based violence.
In other words,
Okay,
can women make themselves vulnerable to violence?
Okay.
That's what he's...
So when you say gender-based violence, it just means that you're being denied or you're being attacked just because you're a woman. Whether you make a mistake or you don't make a mistake, because there is something hanging over your head. She's a woman. When you're driving on the road, there's a difference. A bike man will not speak to a man before he can speak anyhow to a man. And the way he's going to speak to a woman that is driving, I'm sure that most female drivers can relate. The way they will struggle, they will tell you, oh, women, they always drag the road. They are not going to allow you pass because she's a woman. Do you understand? So because she's a woman, there is that mindset already. They feel she's weak. Just like what you're wearing, there is really no excuse. There is nothing that you can say, this is a mistake that you're making for you to be raped, for you to be mutilated genitally because you're a woman, for you to be given out as a child bride, for you to be bullied online because you're a woman, you just got married, and they expect your stomach to start showing in 9 months, and because you keep posting, and some of your family members are seeing you, this thing happens everywhere. We are so accessible. The internet has made us so accessible. Somebody that naturally, when you walk one-on-one, seated with you, cannot say jack to your face. But because you are able to, you're posting online, they see you, they can speak to you anyhow, without even processing through the medulla oblongata what is happening. Some people just sit down. We have keyboard warriors online, speaking to people anyhow, especially the women. And number one, I won't say there is a mistake. One of the mistakes I can call a mistake is you leaving your trails. Some of the security how we need to protect ourselves online.
Somewhere.
Whenever you're going out on a walk, when you're making videos, do not leave trails that can leave out your environment. Example, your house number. For example, when you're posting pictures, do not make sure that your car plate is not there. These are simple precautions that we as individuals are meant to take. Do not post your car plate. Do not post information about your children's school. Don't post your children's badge, even if you have to post them online. Those are normal cyber security measures that we should take note of when showcasing our lives on social media.
In other words,
because our lives is now on social media.
In other words, it is possible that some women put out too much
which
information becomes a problem for them.
Yes,
okay.
Sometimes you can overshare. For example, you're dealing with a particular issue and you've not mentally processed it yet. And then you come online to ask social media people for their advice. We've seen some celebrities do this on their marriages. They pull it out and then they start talking down the women. It is high time, if you know that you do not want the media to talk about your matter, you don't want the opinion, unsolicited opinion of people who are beneath you, do not share it. If you're not in a mental space that you can handle, you have already walked through that situation, you're strong enough to share it, don't share yet. You do not owe anybody any explanation online of what you do about your life. And you do not owe them you're not accountable to them about your life. It is your life. You have to process it. You're not at par. You're not at their mercy or at their beck and call to give them every single details about your life. So we should not make ourselves too overly approachable, we're too overly connected to people when we don't have the obligation to. So we should learn to protect our privacy. Right. And that being said, there is still no excuse. I like what you're wearing on your shirt. There's still no excuse for you to go out and type something bad against another human being, because you could be affecting their mental health and lead them to issues that you could not even eventually be able to handle when you're not aware of it.
We're now delving into the content and context of violence, and that's why I'd like us again to look at the concept of violence. It's evolving to even go beyond the use of force to physically inflict harm on an individual, to even the intention to cause physical harm, both to the physical, mental, psychological, emotional, financial.
People get blackmailed and they ask them to pay.
Exactly. Yes. So all of this constitute violence against any, victim. So let us start with, the most common violence that is getting global attention. Not just global attention, that is prevalent in Nigeria.
I think I will write on the last speaker. It is technology-facilitated violence. It's at the front burner. And coincidentally, we have a cybercrime law in Nigeria. And what we see is that there is the huge impunity in terms of implementing the Cybercrime Act. For instance, technology has given us access to everybody at any time. This is not just targeting women, but targeting everybody. Politicians are being dragged on a daily basis. Celebrities also have their own share of being scandalized on the cyberspace. Activists, journalists, name it, everybody is a victim of technology. Like I think someone said right here, that we have to also censor what we put out, because internet is street. That's what Nigerians call it. The internet is street. What you wouldn't want anybody to say about you, you better not put it out. The moment those informations are out, then you have less control over who says what and to who. So I think for us as women, and in commemoration of this year's International Day for the Elimination of Gender-Based Violence, and why the UN made it specifically for technology-facilitated or digital violence, is because there is no barrier. Wherever you are, you find out celebrities in the US get dragged by Nigerians or Africans. So what are we saying? It has come to the phases where we see the world as a global village. And if it is a global village, we have to imply or apply global strategy on how people can engage on the internet. A lot of young people have suffered sextortion, whereby their images without consent are being shared. And this is one information we need to pass across to the younger ones. It's not every man that tells you to send your nude pictures that you decide to send your nude pictures to. The question
you shouldn't even send your nude pictures.
Yeah, the question is, that's what I'm going. That's what I'm going. In the first instance, who does that? Why should a human being, not even your parent, you are not supposed to, that's why they call it your private part. It should be for you and you alone. Parents should tell their girls.
You know why Victor talked about mistake or girls making themselves vulnerable? Yeah. Because if you go to the social media, you see a lot of young girls, surprisingly so, exposing and inviting and nurturing people, practically selling their body.
Later, they are not proud of it.
So is there a link between these, arts on the social media and the actual, what would I say, the carrying out of the act
itself? Definitely, because there is an erosion of our value system as a country. You understand? Parents no longer have stronghold on how to discipline their children. And another very critical issue is the monetization of these social media spaces. Most of these girls and young people go all out to make money at the detriment of their personality. They forget that the internet doesn't forget. That's why you find out that sometimes a young lady, a young man will want to marry, and the relations go to the internet to find out about your content. Employers now do a lot of background check on the internet to find out about your life. Even in the embassies, when you want to travel now, background check is very important. They go to your own engagement on social media to find out the kind of content you put out there, because your person represents what you put out there. So young people, for instance, they have to really be aware of this context so that they safeguard their future. Because sometimes you say, oh, I was just young. It's not an excuse. Youthful exuberance is not an excuse for you to become so unruly. So I think this is something that, and also the application, like I said, when I started on the Cyber Crimes Act, there has to be an enforcement. The culture of now, all this cyber fraud, Yahoo Plus, all these things, a lot of young people are being targeted for ritual killing because of that. And our law enforcement are there. The EFCC, that thing has overwhelmed them. Recently, I had the chairman talking about it. They said, oh, somebody asked him, why are you not concentrating on politicians that are embezzling money? You are going after all these young people that are... He said, there is a fundamental problem. And the problem is not just for them to do this cybercrime, but also the lives of individuals are being affected. So these are the young generation, and they are the future. If we do not intentionally, strategically look at how we will address this issue, where is the hope of Nigeria? Where is the future?
Now that you've talked about the law, let me stay with you for a moment. Would you say that the legal framework is strong enough to, take on digital abusers, or there's a gap somewhere?
The law is there, but there's a huge gap in terms of implementation. If you ask yourself, how many of these people that have violated the Cybercrime Act have been arrested? And the issue is not even that. How many of us are even aware of the content of the law? Nigerians don't even care. They don't even know. Sometimes when it happens, they say, I don't know. But they said ignorance is not an excuse before the law. So we have to really conscientize. I think the cybercrime is domiciled in the Office of the National Security Advisor. And there has to be massive awareness for Nigerians to know that this law exists. And that if even the provision, can they make it coincide? Because sometimes the law is too big for people to understand. Make it just bullet point. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that anywhere you go, you will know it by head. Not just for us to just assume it is there, but it is not really getting the impact it's supposed to have on the life of the citizens.
All right. Thank you.
I really, Dr. Abaje, I'm just wondering, is there a way we can then build, because one of the focus of the 16-day activism is to build safe places, for girls and women. How can we achieve this, digitally?
I think
if girls are the ones themselves creating the, vulnerability.
I think what we're doing now is just what we need to do in the right direction. First of all, let them be aware. We are generating awareness on the evils of all of these cyber issues, and the more they get aware, the more they can handle it themselves. You want the girls and men, and even men, boys and girls, to know that they will not post indiscriminately. Do not post your location. It is said that you can also change your PIN from time to time so that people do not reach you. And it is also said that, okay, if you have harassers online, don't engage them, give them the silence treatment so that they cannot actually reach you. So if we are generating awareness, if we are letting people know that this is what is evil in this situation, I think that over time, people will now begin to take care of their space, and so they will not be as vulnerable as they are now. Okay,
I like to ask Ife. Ife, let me borrow from the title of one of your books on broadcast, journalism. How did we get here?
So that's a very big question. Of course, when people hear that cliche, how did we get here? They don't even know that it's a book about broadcasting. But it's something that can fit in all aspects of our lives. I've listened to the wonderful women and all the summations that they have made there. But I think that we're kind of missing it, because Victor at some point talked about what mistakes that women are making. I want to bring this in. The little girls, we've seen pictures of fathers who have molested their 6-month-old, 1-year-old, 2, 3-year-olds. What kind of mistakes are those kids making for any man who's sane up here to see such a child and want to take that child to bed? People are known to have sent kids to their early graves because of, I don't know what it is that is welling up inside of them. And you're asking yourself the question, what were those kids wearing for you to see them and you're enticed by what it is that they're wearing? Then you go into them, you have carnal knowledge of them, and these children, some of them fall ill and they die in the process. Away from that, let's even talk about this issue of digital violence against women. And I'll give you some instances. I have called out a couple of our colleagues, of course, when we talk about the media. You're trying to put a story out about a woman. You're going to look for the most terrible picture of her. That's what you're going to use to represent or put across that story. Why should that be? When you're reporting women, it is important to focus on the meat of the matter, not get a photograph. Yes, I know people they're just so overwhelmed by clickbaits now. They're looking at following or followers so that they garner a lot of followers and they can get, some kind of monetization or make some money in the course of the stories or posts that they make. But I think it's wrong. For people who know, every trained journalist or broadcaster understands that you have to report the issue as it is. Let me come to specifics. There's a young lady who used to be, I think, in one of these houses, the Big Brother houses, and there was this story about her. I saw that story by a reputable newspaper, and I called that paper out to say, why would you use a picture of a girl that is scantily dressed to push a story where she's calling for something that is as reasonable as can be, that any and every Nigerian should call for? She's saying something that makes sense, and you go to, out of all of the pictures that you have of this girl or this lady, you want to pick the one that would, of course, bring eyes to your publication and maybe get you the clicks and get people talking. And I think that was improper, and I called them out for it. Same paper recently put out a story about the First Lady, Senator Oluremi Tinubu, talking about the girls that were taken, talking about people who had died in the course of, the violence across the country, and calling on people to, pray, and, of course, wherever they are, hold a minute silence for these people. Then you put a picture of the First Lady where she's smiling. Does that even make any sense at all? Then I tell you what, I talk about this and put up a post about it to say, this is the worst picture you can ever take of a woman who's trying to call attention to something that is affecting all of us as Nigerians. Then you pick a picture where she's smiling and you write that this is what she's talking about, and it didn't make sense to me. But instead of people to focus on what it is I was trying to talk about or point out, they are saying to me, whether they put a picture where she's crying or just in a sober mode, does it bring back the people who are died? That was not the issue at that time. Yes, everyone feels bad at what it is that's going on, but I'm saying that the representation of women in the media, especially on the digital space now, something needs to be done. Somebody there has talked about self-censorship. We need to wake up. We need to understand exactly what it is that we're facing. Let's look at the woman who used to be First Lady in Nigeria, Patience Jonathan. Her Excellency, Dame Patience Jonathan. That woman faced a lot of scorn, ridicule. People use her as memes and all of that. And I'm asking the question, do we even put ourselves in the shoes of these women? You see something about a woman, people, dive into it, they thaw at it, they use it over and over. I don't think it's truly right. And as the media, whether you're the traditional media or whether you're on social media, the narratives need to begin to change. If we look at the theme of the 16 days of activism, it's about ending digital violence against women. A woman says something on social media. Instead of you to talk about the issue, you're calling her a prostitute, you're saying all sorts of things about her, you're looking at her, you're abusing her the way she looks, you're body shaming her. So much is going on. And I think a lot of orientation and reorientation needs to be done so that we can get back to what it used to be, having empathy, sympathizing with the other person, looking at the real issues. But I tell you, I'm sure you also understand that for you to actually get people talking about you and looking at your posts or your timeline on social media, just abuse someone. And that's it. Everyone comes there, they just jump into it. Dr. Adeni just talked about it. People who can ordinarily not speak with you or talk to you when they see you, they can't even come close. They're right there on their keypads in one corner of their rooms, and they're typing away, they're abusing. And I just say, look, social media is a leveler. If you know you cannot actually take that hit, no wonder some people stay away from it. But we need to do what is right. When a woman comes to do something or says something, the way she is portrayed, I think we should look at that. And maybe that's a good place to start.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Chief Ify Onyebule. I just need to make this clarification that when I spoke of mistakes, I was focusing strictly on the theme, which is digital. And sexual violence couldn't be perpetrated in the manner that you were talking about it. But having said that, you are a media person, and from the picture you've painted, I would like to ask, generally speaking, would you then say that the media is amplifying or reducing the digital violence against women? The digital violence against women.
Here nor there, that's the truth. I'm just giving you a few examples that I have seen when I'm there on social media. Yes, I'm very active on social media. I'm also looking at training some young girls now to say, we need to report women and report them very well. It's a big issue. That is the truth. As the media, our job is to focus on the issues. You cannot want to write something up. Okay, let me use myself as an example. Before I was appointed as Director General, I think less than 24 hours before that announcement was made, a young lady, a neophyte, I'll just put it that way, and a very ignorant one at that, took my picture, just went on social media, whether it's a random picture or not, I don't want to believe that someone says, look, go and take that woman's picture. She took my picture and attached it to a story of a woman who had duped people of money running into billions. And that story went viral. I was getting links, calls, and all of that. And that's not the first time it has happened. So I'm saying, maybe people do these things intentionally, I do not know. Because that story came out and was all over the place. The next day, I was appointed Director General. Now, look at it. What if my government had gone to see that story and they say, oh, let's look at this woman very well and all of that. Let's go and, find out about her again, because I know they would have done some background checks. But that happened. It was a crazy story. The police had put out a notice for this woman to be found and arrested. But this reporter from wherever, Nairametrics, that's it. She took my picture and attached it to it. What I'm trying to say is the media needs to get it right. And maybe it's because everybody now, once you have a phone and you have internet, people now call themselves journalists as it is. Training and retraining. A lot is happening. I've just told you about a very credible publication that took the photograph of the First Lady of Nigeria, where she was smiling, and you're trying to tell a story that she's saying to people, we need to all come out and say no to the violence that is happening, and you're putting such a picture. It is not a blog that did it. It is a credible publication, a well-respected newspaper that did it. And as I called them out, people left the issue and pounced on me. Of course, sometimes I don't even reply to such messages, but I wanted people to see exactly what our thinking, our mentality is when we talk about morality, doing the right thing as it is. So I'm telling you, the media, some try to, deal with the issues, but a lot of them, they're not doing exactly what it is. Everyone is running after clicks, likes, follow, comments, and all of that. That's what people are running after. And they are not minding what it is that these women are going through. Imagine you sitting down and reading about yourself and the nasty things people say about you. Mental health issues are on the rise now because of some of the things that happen on social media. I can take it. How many women are able to take it and use their voice to say, this is not what it is? Not many women can do that. So I think the media has a lot of work to do. And what we're doing right now is part of it. And I hope that it continues.
Thank you for all the points that you have raised. And indeed, there's so much that, the media can also do. And what we do, like you rightly said, is report on very sensational incidents that are, affect women, and then, of course, thereby reinforcing even the actions. So when we come back to you, I'd like for you to talk to us about what you think, how you think we can, begin to report the solutions or the systems that have helped, to minimize violence against gender. That's when we come back to you in a moment. We've got some messages here with us. We'll quickly take some of them. Victor, you have some messages?
I do.
Okay, please start.
All right. This one reads, good morning, Mars. Is gender-based violence all about women? Can't the men be victims of gender-based violence too? That's from Olatunde Kazim in Ijebu-Ode. All right, I take this next one. Good morning, Victor, as it's addressed to me. I love your style of cloth. You look handsome. Okay. Say, let's stop gender-based violence all over Africa. That's from Muyiwa in Ekiti. Thank you. And good morning to you all in the studio. I am Usama Shehu from Mina, Niger State. I am really glad with this topic of discussion. It is very important for the society and community to know more about gender-based violence. Thank you. And another one reads, good morning all. Azu, I don't envy you this morning. Thank you. Only amongst these beautiful, powerful women. Anyway, it is important to provide or to promote equality, whether male or female. By doing that, we have a welcome society that protects all. Thank you. That's from Tunde Malik. He said it's my neighbor here in Abuja. Your neighbor? Okay. And this long one is from No Name. While I agree with the need for awareness on gender-based violence, when it comes to digital violence, most ladies even tend to be more toxic, more violent towards the male gender than the other way around. We should take a realistic approach of what is our reality than a popular narrative. For instance, everyone keeps talking about parents, how parents prefer male children, but this is taking us back to the 90s, because in these contemporary times, the female child is even getting more attention in the home than the male child, and psychologically, it's affecting the male child. The gender abuse that is concerning in our time is sexual abuse and also false accusations of sexual abuse. Thank you very much. I think that's about it from me.
So let me take a bottom-top approach to take my messages. I don't agree with Madam Ife. Ife, I hope you're listening. This message says, this is from Krome, says, I don't agree with Madam Ife if she's defending young ladies that post naked pictures on the internet. Generally, most women are the ones that encourage the gender-based violence against themselves due to what they post online, reinforcing Victor's earlier insinuations or allegations. Yes. This says, thank you. This is good morning, presenters and wonderful guests. The violence on social media platform is not limited to a woman. Men also face the same thing, just like men also cry. So I was above at a very tender age he was abused at a very tender age by a mature woman. In fact, that singular act affected his sex life, until he had to personally seek help. We must wake up and discuss the matter in a way that it will help the larger society. To stop any form of violence, all hands must be on deck. Men, women, boys, and girls. We're all vulnerable. The DG talked about the First Lady, but she forgot the First Lady's husband, President Goodluck Jonathan, who was declared dead, and this was done by high-ranking leaders. DG Ife, you have two messages that you will probably respond. Let me quickly take this again. My name is Ogbonnaya from Ebonyi State. I'm happy to be sharing from your discussion. Your guests are amazing, but it's going to be very difficult to implement the cybercrime law in Nigeria, simply because, just like Dr. Asmao said, the monetization of the digital space in the midst of enormous pressure to survive, that pressure is disintegrating the glue that holds families and humanity. Some men now try to run away from their responsibilities just to live long. Most of the younger men now get deeply involved in crimes. So the solution is creating a surviving space for all. That's a surviving space for all. Environment where a woman doesn't have to sleep with her landlord to be under the roof. I'm sure Dr. Asmao, you get the scenario. he's trying to create. I'm trying to look for, this is from Chike Dim, Warri in Delta State. Gender-based violence refers to harmful acts directed at someone based on their gender, often involving physical, emotional, sexual, or psychological harm. Now, in Nigeria and across Africa, GBV remains a critical societal challenge. Despite various initiatives aimed at addressing this issue, the rise of social media has unfortunately led to an increase in online gender violence. Amplifying the scale of this harmful practice, this can be curbed through promoting digital literacy, enforcing stricter laws, and fostering community awareness campaigns. And, we have quite a number of messages. Akiyemi says, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I love this program and the focus today. But my question is, as a married woman, does a married woman have the right to her husband's cell phone? Secondly, does she also have right to lock her cell phone and lock her WhatsApp? Akiyemi, hey, okay. This is Igbodo from Asaba. Gender violence, women in particular, receive overwhelming attention that oppressed men in marriages have hardly been brought to forefront. Okay, oppressed men in marriages have hardly been brought to the forefront of gender violence. I pity the male anchor, Victor Azu, who is currently immersed in 1/5 women in the studio. Men don't cry out like women do. Now that women have become breadwinners, only God will save the men or the man-child. Ikechukwu Charles. I think I'll stop here. Ikechukwu, we have your message. We'll take your message.
When we return from the break.
Yes, when we return from the break. All right, welcome back. So let me quickly take these two messages. Charles Ikechukwu Abiagom from Ubulu, Aniocha local government area of Delta State. Yes, gender-based violence is not a new thing. We know there's been disagreement between man and man, woman and woman, and man and woman in that order. The male and women folk alike should live together in peace, but there can always be conflicts in human nature. Agreed? If we protect one against the other, there is no equality treatment. We can only appeal to various groups to be loving, avoid gender-based violence if possible. We can always be loving with equal and enjoy same opportunity if we have the same balance and talents capacity. Thank you. Thank you, Charles. This is from Umar from Kanu. Although Victor is in the minority in the studio, the gender violence you're talking about are referring to female only. Remember that there is for males as well. Oh, ladies, yes. This is from Shehu from Mina. I'm really glad with this topic of discussion. It's very important for the society and community to know more about the gender-based violence. Okay. Good morning, Victor Azu. I love your style.
No, I think
you look handsome. Okay,
messages.
you've taken this
We've
one.
taken these messages.
All right. So let's talk about the criminal law. He said it will be too difficult to implement it.
There is no law that can be too difficult to implement. It takes the political will and sincerity of our leaders to enforce such laws in the first instance. So when you say it's not enforceable, there's nothing that is not enforceable. If it's not enforceable, then why was the law promulgated? The only thing we have to look at is the issue of the people understanding the law and how people can apply that law either for or against the perpetrators, right? Because almost everybody is even violating the cyber crime law. For instance, there was a time on WhatsApp, they said, okay, for you to even hear something and without verifying, fact-checking, you post to another WhatsApp group like we do. Everything we see, we don't authenticate the source of such information. We'll just keep circulating. When the law pounds on you, not just the sender in that group, but even everybody that shares that is also what? Implicated, right? So people should know that, like I said earlier, ignorance is not an excuse. Talk more of saying that it cannot be enforced. It can be enforced. Nigeria, the people that are basically, the Cyber Crime Act, a lot of these ministries, departments, and agencies of government have a role to play. The Nigerian police has a role to play in it. The EFCC have a role to play. The Ministry of Justice has a role to play. Office of the Security Advisor has a role to play, especially the CCC, that is the Center for the Coordination of Cybercrime in Nigeria, has a role to play. But what we see is not just having these institutions and the law present. Do we have the political will to prosecute offenders? We see people doing anything they want until one day when the arm of the law will catch up with someone. We say, no, this person has done it and nothing has been done. Maybe you'll be the scapegoat. Who knows? So I think that is what the understanding and the message that I want to pass across, that we should all be responsible and take inventory of what we post online.
Okay, so I think I have two questions for Ife. Ife, can you respond to some of the messages that came in? One of them, made reference to Dame Patience Jonathan's spouse that you left out, that he too was also abused. I mean, to use in quote. Abused. I mean, to use in quote.
Yes. Messages that came in that had to do with me. Let me take it from where you just stopped, talking about His Excellency President Goodluck Jonathan. People fail to understand, and that's the issue that I have with a lot of us Nigerians, when it comes to issues like this on social media. It is important to stay with the theme, stay with the conversation that we're having, so that we're not scattering ourselves in 20 different places. Yes, there are men who face a lot of violence as it is. People carried the coffin of the president at that time when people were protesting. The late president, Buhari, people said all sorts of things about him. There were pictures of the man in a hospital or right there on a hospital bed, and all sorts of gadgets, connected to the body of the person that looked like him. And I'm sure these were deep fakes. People were just putting up all sorts. People have faced things. Even the current president, Bola Tinubu, is facing it. And the man says to you, I don't even go on social media anymore because they abuse the living daylight out of me. I'm not saying you don't talk about issues when it's about governance. Stay with the issue. But people don't do that. They begin to do some kind of verbal abuse. They look at you, they say all sorts. People who are not even old enough to be their grandchildren. So people trend now. They love it. They come out to abuse people. Let me even talk about my own governor. That man has been bullied. They say all sorts of things about him. I'm talking about His Excellency Senator Hope Uzodinma. They talk about him also. They talk about other governors. They talk about other politicians, men as it is. But the conversation now is not about men. Let's understand that. When you want to talk about men, of course, invite me. We'll sit down and have that conversation. And I'll also tell you the reason why you should never bully a man. But the conversation is not about the man. I want to invest my talk now, invest my time and, my issues as it has to do with women. We're talking about the 16 days of activism, how to end gender-based violence. And when we look at it, the statistics is there for everyone to see. It's in the public domain. So I had to bring in those instances of Dame Patience Jonathan. That woman was bullied as it is. Now they've started with the woman who's first lady. I'm not saying everybody has to like someone. That's the truth. Even in the place where I work, not everyone likes me. And I did not go to take up that job to be liked. I went there to do a job, and that's why I'm going to be there. So what we're saying is, you may not like someone, but when you need to put out a story, or when you need to discuss issues, let us focus on the issues instead of verbally hurling abuse at the persons, whether male or female. But for this conversation we're having, we're talking about the women. Now, let me take the other one, who said that it is the women and the things that they post, that's what attracts all the kind of violence that they face. And I want to say no. I'm not an advocate of people being scantily dressed. You can still look beautiful, and that's why I love some of my Muslim sisters. You're so covered. There's this lady on CNN. She's Muslim. She's covered. She's pretty. You just want to watch when she's talking. And there's some other ladies out there who are so covered when you see them, and they are beautiful. But that's not to say that I will have to do away or abuse those who decide to dress comfortably. There's something called self-respect. There's something called self-restraint. There's something called looking away. That is the truth. You can't touch anyone. I've been to Brazil, in a place where you don't wear clothes when you're going to the beach. When we went there, from our hotel, you could dress in your bikini and whatever you're wearing and walk to the beach. The beach is just across. Some people walk, a little further from where they live, to the beach. And you're strolling like that. No one is touching you or grabbing you right there in Brazil. Because they said to us as Nigerians, they were talking to the gentleman who went with us to say, look at these women, you dare not touch them. You try it, you are going in for it. So I think people need to have self-respect. If you respect yourself, you respect another person. You just talked about women dressing and calling attention and the things that happen to them. And I say, no, that's not true. The 5-year-old, the 6-year-old that people get to abuse and rape, were they scantily dressed? Just 2 days ago, Tonya, bruised but not broken, gathered mothers, people together to talk about girls who were raped to death. Yet they've not gotten justice for those children. There's so many of them. The Ochanyas of this world, the Wailers of this world, the Karens of this world, and the list continues. Were those kids scantily dressed? These were children who were sent to school. One was in the church reading, and that's where she was clubbed and sent to the great beyond. The other one was sent to school. Her mother sent her to school. And when she was checked, they found a condom inside of her. She was rotten from inside. Was she scantily dressed in school? We need to call a spade and stop dissipating our energies on, other things. Yes, I agree. Men are also bullied. They also say things about them. But for the purpose of the conversation we're having this morning, the issue revolves around women. And I think we should keep it that way.
Thank you, Fionyebule. Sometimes I begin to wonder, perhaps we should, because those who argue, perhaps we should change the name. We shouldn't call it gender. We should just say, violence against women.
I don't agree with you,
those who argue.
Hold on. If he had already said, for the purposes of this discussion today, this is for girl
Yet
gender.
you call it gender-based violence, right? Anyway.
I actually like where Ify is coming from. She's coming from a position of, we need to get people to know. We need to get people to understand what they are doing. And especially in the media space, as she says it, she's aiming to train people to be able to distinguish between issues. The thin line between the truth and what is manipulation is fading out because people are not aware of what they are doing. Like, they talk of AI, ChatGPT, these things who urge you to do things, the way you are thinking. AI mimics your voice, puts it out there, and people are not sure. AI undresses you, and then you appear there. So some of the time, it's not that even these people set out to go there naked, but they can be mimicked. They can be shown as what they are not. They can be made to speak what they didn't speak, by creating their images. So once people get a better understanding, even the young people, let them understand that these things can happen. And so they will then also limit what information they put out there, how they engage, because they know that these things can be used against them. A woman that is defect, a woman that is made to appear as she's not, you don't know what trauma this will send them through. So even giving them suicidal instincts. So we just need to know that these things exist. People need to be aware. They need to be educated about these things. And they also need to be able to handle it. If you are on the space, on the cyberspace, on the digital space, also know that you should learn how to protect yourself, by the things you put out there, like changing your pins from time to time so that people don't reach it. People can even financially uproot you by getting things out of your account, siphoning money out of your account.
So how do we ensure?
So you ensure by knowing how to handle it. Women should also get to know.
I'm going to say, how do we ensure, you were in service, how do we ensure that workplace policies, protect women from digital harassment and not just the physical ones?
Like my sister here has been saying, we have rules, regulations. We have to have the will to ensure that we carry out what we say we will do. And in the workplace, like if he is in charge somewhere, like we are all in charge in places, you have to be intentional about what you want to see people do, what you want to see young people do to themselves, and what they do to others around them at work. So if you are intentional about it, it means that you are also able to quickly detect when anyone is going towards a situation that is not palatable to everybody, a situation that will embarrass anybody. If you are, in charge of young people, from the way they interact. So you can also come from the angle of teaching them expectations, what they must do to themselves and what they must do to others. So as awareness continues to be generated, and people continue to know situations around this, then we are all able to handle it. That's why they say unite to eliminate gender violence. You do it, I do it, organizations do it, non-governmental organizations do it, governments do it, and before you know what is happening, we can get safe space for everybody.
Dr. Adeniyi, I'm just wondering, just simple, does awareness necessarily translates to responsibility to act or protect? And I say this because what we're doing now is creating, is advocacy, creating the awareness. But does something need to happen even when you are aware?
Well, awareness will, number one, change the mindset of the individuals. It will affect the community. Everybody is becoming more self-aware because according to the statistics, more than 40 to 60% of the population, when this population was taken, admitted that they've at one point or the other been a cyber bully, they've at one point or the other been an internet warrior, either to your family member that is easily approachable or to people that are not even related to you on the other end of the internet. Virtually everybody is guilty of this. So number one, awareness has now made you know that what you're doing is wrong and you should change it immediately. So awareness is very important. Secondly, for the people who are custodians of the children, awareness is going to let you know that a child or a minor is under your care for you to be able to guide them, to teach them on what they should do on the internet, what they should do with their physical body, and what they should not do. When a child comes to you and he reports to you and says, oh, I'm going through this, or somebody, this is what is happening, are you so engrossed in your own phone that you don't even have time to attend to the children, your own children, or the children that are your wards that are put in your care? Or are you even the one that is a predator that is preying over the child that is put in your care? Awareness is going to let you know that there will be consequences and you will be found out if you are a predator. Awareness is going to let every organization, recently the news came out that a co-founder of a major fintech company in Nigeria was suspended. A co-founder. So even a co-founder, somebody that you are the founder of an organization does not exempt you from facing the wrath of the law. It was awareness that made that staff to be able to report and speak up, knowing that the way it was going to be handled 10 years ago is not what will happen this year. That when I speak up, my voice can be more powerful than my abuser's power. So this is the power of awareness, and awareness is the place of awareness can never be underestimated.
All right.
We will not stop, and we'll keep pushing until we see the end of it.
Thank you. I'd just like to, as we gradually wind up this conversation, Dr. Asmau, how do we ensure in all of this that the women in communities in the rural settings are not left behind in this conversation of protecting women from digital abusers?
Thank you very much. I think it is even harder to get to the grassroots because most of them don't have smartphones to even know what is happening in our contemporary times. But they also have access to the radio. So for the fact that they don't have internet at their disposal, most of them, but some do, I think we can leverage these messages through jingles and using the radio to pass across this information. And I really wanted to add to what the question you asked about creating safe spaces within the workplace. Okay. I remember working with the government as a head of a vulnerable group care unit, and I remember also contributing to conversations around the ILO Convention C-190, which talks about sexual harassment in the workspace. We could put up policies, prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse, because when we talk about gender-based violence, it's not a homogeneous thing. Under gender-based violence, we have sexual exploitation and abuse and harassment, which has to do basically with institutions. So we cannot use the template for preventing gender-based violence in the public space or in the domestic space to apply it to institutions of government or other private or corporate organizations. There has to be deliberate policies or action plans that the institution itself, if possible, the government should make it compulsory that in every MDA, in every organization, there has to be this is something we see in the international community. For once, I've developed a lot of this for other international organizations because it's a criteria for creating safe workspaces for women. But unfortunately, in the government space, because of the public service rule, you don't see it. So if I were in the government shoe now, talking about these issues, to ensure that there's sincerity of political will to execute this or to implement the eradication of gender-based violence, let us bring it for example, NTA. You could say NTA should implement prevention of sexual exploitation and abuse and harassment in the workplace for women and girls. And other MDAs also should do the same. In the security sector, they should do the same. In every facet of our national life, they should adopt that. And then going back to the community, I think it's important to work with the traditional religious leaders because they are the custodians of our culture. And they should know who and what to do with women because some of these people don't even believe that women have rights. So, but if we train them, in the course of my work, I went to one state. Do you know one of the chief there, because of the training he received from international organization, he is so gender sensitive that in everything that has to be done in his community, women must have to be represented, even more than men, when we went to work with them. So it shows that when there is capacity building, when there is training, even those custodians of our culture will rise up to what? Their responsibility of inclusiveness, responsibility of engaging women and participation of women in every decision making at the local level.
Okay, thank you. Let's quickly take my last question for Ife. And Ife, I just would like again your perspective because there are some societal and cultural norms that tend to justify some forms of violence against women. And I'm talking about some people believe that, look, wife beating, I mean, it's normal. Child beating, it's normal. Early marriage is normal. Things like that. How do we begin to, not to reinforce these cultural norms? Things like that. How do we begin to, reinforce these cultural norms?
So much for that, Claire, and you took it out of me because I was waiting for you to come here so that we get to talk about it. And this is where the National Orientation Agency comes in. I'm of the Generation X, for those who understand the years, when we talk about people who were born in that generation. I was born in a generation where you're walking to school, even as a secondary school student, those days in Aguda Surulere. You could see the billboards, set up, put up by the National Orientation Agency, where they're telling you, don't give bribes, don't take bribes. Life was beautiful at that time. The NOA should now wake up. I can see so much going on social media. They are doing things now and putting out, and I think the person there is really proactive. But a lot more needs to be done. It's about opening up what it is that you have, bringing people who have some kind of experience that they need to share with you. You come up with key messages that will be scattered all across the country. Dr. Asmao mentioned something that is very key in our conversation here. What it is that is right in one part of the country or one geopolitical zone is not the same that you find in another place. You just talked about child marriage. In some parts of the country, it is the norm. I have a friend who's a Muslim, and she says, look, once my daughter sees her period, she's ripe enough to go for marriage or go into marriage. And that's what her maybe religion and her culture teaches her, and no one's going to hold that against her. So I think the NOA, the National Orientation Agency, should, wake up as it is and begin to come up with what it is that we know. Messages that you will.
Victor.
I think we lost connection with Ifeonyebule there, and but then we have to go. It's about time. So let me thank Dr. Olajumoke Adeniyi, who is Head of Operations at Hassam Foundation, Creative Director, Salt and Light Brand. We thank you very much for coming.
It's a pleasure. Thank you for having us.
Let me also thank Dr. Asmao Benzislio, Executive Director of the Center for Nonviolence and Gender Advocacy in Nigeria. Thank you for your time and your thoughts.
Thank you.
Chief Dr. Rekia Momoabaji, retired Director of the Federal Civil Service, an activist on women and development issues. We appreciate your perspectives on the program.
Thank you very much. It's my pleasure to be here.
And finally, let me thank Ifeonyebule, who is Executive Director, Women of Substance, and DGIBC. Thank you very much for the perspectives you've brought on the program. And that's Good Morning Nigeria for today. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you again tomorrow. I am Victor Azu.
And I'm Claire Adelabu Abdulrazak. I'm signing up for the week. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.